In this lesson, we'll take a look at load cases and load combinations. All right, so now that we have things copied and monitored into our model, let's take a look at how we can start thinking about the loads that we're going to apply to our model. Now, we have a few steps left. One, we got to set up our loading combinations, which we're going to do now. But we're also going to need to do a check before we run our analysis. We're also going to need to apply our loads. Then we're going to have to look at the results. So we have a few steps left. But before we go, let's start thinking about these loads that we're going to apply. So to start out, I'm going to go to make sure on my Analyze tab. And here under Loads, you'll know we have three options. Well, we're not going to use this one just yet because we're not going to apply any loads yet. But what we are going to do is we're going to focus on these two. So when I click on Load Cases, you'll notice something. We have a couple of windows brought up here. So we have our actual load cases here, and we have 1 through 8 installed here by default. So they're the loads you'd pretty much think you'd want to think about when you're thinking of your building here. Dead loads, live loads, wind loads, snow loads, roof live loads, accidental loads, temperature loads, and also seismic. So there's a lot you can actually work with here. But not only do you have these, but you also have the ability to add one. So let's say I wanted to maybe add a load for as I'm building a structure and we may need to store some materials on a certain area. You can go add, and you want to make sure you account for this load in the design of your building. So what we can do is we can assign a name to this one. This one we'll call it, since I'll call it a temporary load. Now I don't want it to look too much like temperature. So what we can do is, maybe type the whole thing in actually. So we'll do tempo load. Tempo L1. The case number automatically is assigned. We know that it's a dead load. I'm assuming it's going to be bricks or some kind of material. So it's not going to be moving. And we can just put this under here. We can say it's going to be a dead load as well. So, and that's basically all you need to do to create, your own next load. Now down below that we have our natures, and natures is a category that actually exists up here for our cases. So you have your name, case number, the nature of your case, and also the category. So if you needed to create a new one, you could actually create a new nature. So if dead didn't really satisfy the nature that I wanted in here, I can go to add, I'll type in temporary. I'll then come up here and I should be able to find it right there. So now that's a little bit more accurate. So it's a temporary load 1, it's temporary, and it's a dead load because it's not moving. That's pretty much all you need to do when you're setting up your load cases. So I can say OK. And if I want to set up my load combinations, I can click on combinations. Now these are all in the same window, so I just as easily could have clicked over here, but I did want to see how you can access it from over here as well. Now load combinations is a pretty powerful tool because you can set up, as you think, many load combinations, and we can apply that to the model and see what those combinations do and how our building will react to it. So to start out, let's take a look at this. We have our load combination here on top. Down here I have a formula, and then down here I have a usage. So when I come back up here, I see name, formula, type, state, and usage. So we'll probably start here. We'll need to come up with a formula, and then we'll also create a usage. So let's get the ball rolling. Let's create our first combination. So let's say add here, and I'm going to assign a name to this guy here. We could say combo 1. I'm going to erase some of this extraneous letters here, this extra stuff. Combo 1. Now when it comes to the formula, I really can't do much here. I actually have to do it down here. So what I need to do, click on add. And what this does is it basically allows you to take a fraction of a load or each load within your combination and apply a factor to it, a percentage factor. So for instance, in our case here, let's say we wanted to create a load combination of the dead load of the object, its own weight, but I also want to add another thing into that combination. Let's say, from 0 to 1, you have to put in a factor. Let's say 0.75. I can also drop in maybe my temporary load. Actually, we'll do snow load, just as a little example here. So that's how we get that done. And now you can see it automatically applies up here. So kind of like I mentioned. So our first one, our dead load, that's 1, which is this scale factor, the number 1, times your dead load plus 0.75 or 75% of the load here. All those together create the combination. So then we have our area here where we have our type. So we can either go with combination, or if I go to this drop down, I can go with envelope. So if I go with combination, combination is more for a single load combination. This one here, this envelope, will actually do a group of load combinations. So we're going to do combination, just that one. And then we have another one, this state. Now with this drop down, I can come here, and basically serviceability is how your building or structure is going to perform under your normal loading conditions, and your ultimate is how your building is going to resist your loading combination. So we'll handle this one. And then we'll go to usage. That's where we'll actually need to maybe apply usage here. So we can say, maybe we can give it a name here. For instance, let's see. We could maybe use 2 loading combination usages here. Maybe something going in the Z direction, or maybe call it gravity, going up and down. So I'm going to type in, give this guy a name. We can add another one, and maybe we'll want to have a usage for maybe a situation with things going laterally, so we can say lateral. So now I can click on either one of these and it'll appear up here. So now we've created our own usage category. So we have some things that are automatically inside Revit for us, and then we have some of the freedom to actually create our own usage and nature and things like that. So once I get that applied, I could say OK, and we've now created our load combination. And we'll actually learn how to apply that a little bit later once we start applying loads. But I wanted to get that into your mind first, because we need to start thinking about the loads we're going to apply to this thing, because there may be some additional prep work we need to do to this model. And that's actually what we'll work in on the next lesson. So before we start applying loads and running any kind of reports, I want to show you how we can actually check our model, one, by checking the results. You can actually do it here. Checking the supports, and also check the consistency, making sure that if I jump to my analytical model here, and I'll go to wireframe, making sure that all these little sticks all line up. Everything's meeting correctly. Everything is joined properly. So that's what these 2 things will do. And we'll actually jump in to running those really quick checks, but also problem solving if we do run into an error message. So I'll meet you in the next lesson.